Thank you for tuning into our podcast. We are coming to you from South Hadley, Massachusetts. I am your host, Carrie, and joining me is Holyoke's very own local historian and creator of the Historical Tours of Greater Holyoke, Robert Como. He offers both public and private tours, as well as presentations of the local canal systems, reservoirs, cemeteries, and churches, as well as various parks and streets in Holyoke, South Hadley, and Chicopee, Mass. Now you actually lead these tours and give these presentations yourself, is that correct?
That's right, and this is a couple important locations.
And today you'll be talking about the Whitmore paper mill. So, what products did the Whitmore paper mill make?
The Whitmore paper mill made a lot of paper products, like a lot of mills in Holyoke. The reason why is because there was a great need. Think of an electronic age, or how many electronic pieces or gadgets you need for a lot of specialty things. Well, these paper companies made them for the paper industry, which was vast. And so they made some really cool paper. One they really pumped out a lot was a fine white plated and chroma papers. In all weights and sizes, prepared by steam lithographic presswork. Alright, so they made lots of things, including magazine covers in different colors, enameled paper, cardboard of every description, usually for home use. They made all the different things you needed to pick up clothes, including the collars around the clothes, the wedding boxes, or paper going around it. And it made it a lot of different things, including for railroad companies, the tags you need for luggage, for instance, or for signing into a railroad. And they also made a lot of Bristol board or lightweight cardboard, including Bristol blanks, tinted mounts, and then something called Tough Check, which I don't know what that means at all. And they made all this, and they made it to the sizes. They made it as big as you needed, as small as you needed. So it was a company that did a lot in order to gain an advantage in the industry and in the world that needed a lot of materials.
And where has this mill been located through the years?
Okay, for a very long time they were located in the Holyoke Water Power Mill that was on Cabot Street. It was a special made mill just for startups, and they started in 1880, and they started there and they stayed in that location for a fairly long time, from 1880 to about 1910. And then they were able to graduate or get up to their own mill. And that mill happened to be at the corner of the southwest corner of Appleton and Canal, near the Middle Canal Street place or location. It was very close to the third level canal, and the building actually is still there, and you can still visit. It's still being used. Now we're going to talk about production in this mill along the way, and also what's becoming a mill. It's important to know that they were the first one to use this location, so they're the one that built it. And so they got a very strong company going, and must have been very profitable because they stayed there for a long time, I think to about 1930. So they existed for about half a century. I don't know what happened to them at that point, but a lot of mills probably were going out of business around then.
And so quickly before we continue with the rest of our interview, just to fill our listeners in, if you want to find out more information or sign up for any of his various tours, you can check out his website at holyokecanaltour.org. And there he has both videos of the various stops along each tour and also past and present photos of the historical sites throughout as well. And if you're interested in setting up a private tour, you can email him directly at bobcat4214, capital B, at yahoo.com. And they're perfect for fun and educational outdoor activities for the whole family or for your group parties, especially those special occasions and get-togethers. They're also good just for getting outdoors for a day. Getting back to our interview, what was production like at this mill?
All right, so the mill was a fairly large mill by the standards of Holyoke, and so a lot was happening. Now, you got to remember that they were at first in the Holyoke Water Power Company's industrial site on Cabot Street, the startup mill, and there they were just one of many occupants. And so that tells you something. And what it tells you is that everything was small. But everything would have to be segregated. So there was a section where you do the calendar or get the paper down to the thinness you needed. In a section, do the cut and so forth. And when they moved into their new location at the southwest corner of Appleton and Canal, they kept up that model. So they're very much not like most of the paper mills of Holyoke, which had a fourth floor devoted to rag picking, a second floor devoted to getting the paper pulped in together with the fat molecules holding that paper, and then thinness and cutting. So here you did it all on the same floor, and it wasn't segmented by going downwards on the floor. They did have auxiliary buildings off to the side for storage. The railroad was very close by, and they had a spike going into their company with a platform, so they can get materials in and out very quickly. If there was any segmentation by floors, it was simply the second floor was mostly divided for drying up the paper, the first floor for finishing off, and then the basement for its raw stock of its paper. But there really good production happened on any floor, and they just had their own segment in it. So for that reason, they were very different. Maybe the reason why is because most of the paper they actually made would be considered cardboard, or very light cardboard that you use at home. And that kind of material is not really adaptable to floor by floor, having different things on that floor. It's very similar to the Newton and Chemical Paper Company, also cardboard makers, which also didn't use the normal model within Holyoke.
And what became of this mill?
Okay, so along the way, they changed hands to the Marvellum about the year 1930. And the Marvellum stayed there for about 30 years. Marvellum means marvelous vellum. They were true paper makers, more so. And then even those went away. And what it has been now for the last 10 years is a mill which grows marijuana. I think it might even been the first one in Holyoke, where there's now 4 of them. So it's changed drastically through the years. The building looks like it's in great shape. And remember that it was built around 1910, so that's much later than most of the mills. So you should consider this one of the last mills, and that's probably why it's still around. What's going to happen in the future, I don't know. It's in a great location, but who knows if this marijuana industry will stay up. But the mill is ready to do anything. It's not ready for retail because it's really not great for, it's right next to the railroad tracks. It's more great or better off for industry itself. And if it ever gets to that need, maybe it'll keep going.
And thank you, Robert, for educating us on your tours. So we want to thank our listeners for tuning in. And again, if you want to find out more information or sign up for any of his tours, you can check out his website at holyokecanaltour.org or email him directly at bobcat4214, capital B, at yahoo.com. And be sure to check out his upcoming 2024 season tours and more as they become available. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning into our podcast. We are coming to you from Chicopee, Massachusetts. I am your host, Carrie, and joining me is Holyoke's very own local historian and creator of the historical tours of Greater Holyoke, Robert Kumo. He offers both public and private tours as well as presentations of the local canal systems, reservoirs, cemeteries, and churches, as well as various parks and streets in Holyoke, South Hadley, and Chicopee, Mass. Now you actually lead these tours and give these presentations yourself, is that correct?
Yeah, that's right, and this is one close to the third level canal.
And so today he'll be talking about the Marvellum. So what did the Marvellum company make?
Alright, so you can kind of tell by the breakdown of the word, it's a combination of marvelous and vellum. Vellum is very, very fine paper. It's probably was not exactly what vellum used to be historically, but they just wanted to say we had very fine paper to the point that it was marvelous. And they were a very successful company while they were around Holyoke. And so what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about where they're located and also what the production was like at the mill, and then the history somewhat of the mill. They were one of the latecomers into the location. All right, so we know that they made marvelous paper, right? And Their ad says very distinctive papers, makers of coated and processed papers, cover stocks for catalog and manuals, fancy paper in boxes and display purposes, functional paper for specialized packaging. So essentially, what they're doing is making that beautiful paper that you might buy, say, in a fancy cardboard box and have it wrapped around if it was a nice jacket. Or they'd be making the beautiful paper that you find at the start of very nice books or magazines, right? Or very nice paper that companies would send out trying to look very fancy, maybe glazed paper, and so forth. And by doing this, they could call themselves a marvelous paper, right? And also, they had a big mill, so I'm pretty sure that their amount of business around the United States was pretty large.
So, where was the Marvellum located? And who is there now?
Okay, so what we're looking at is the place where the Whitmore used to be. This is a place at the corner, or the southwest corner of Appleton and Middle Canal Street. It's a place that mostly faces onto Canal Street itself. And they stayed, before they were there, the Whitmore Paper Company was there. The Whitmore had moved in there, sometimes probably in the 1890s. And they were a paper company that didn't specialize horrible much. And so the Whitmore was there first. And then the Marvellum stayed there for a very long time, from their incorporation in Holyoke in 1921 until into the 1980s. And then they moved out. The place was empty for a while. And then I think the Ortho Pump started using it a little bit, but they had a lot of buildings. And then lately, in the last 10 years, marijuana production has happened in the Marvellum. So you might still say it's marvelous.
So, quickly before we continue with the rest of our interview, just to fill our listeners in, if you want to find out more information or sign up for any of his various tours, you can check out his website at holyokecanaltour.org. And there he has both videos of the various stops along each tour, and also past and present photos of the historical sites throughout as well. And if you're interested in setting up a private tour, you can email him directly at bobcat4214, capital B, at yahoo.com. And they are perfect for fun, educational, and outdoor activities for the whole family, or for your group parties, especially those special occasions and get-togethers. And they are also good just for getting outdoors for the day. So getting back to our interview, now what was production like at the Marvellum?
Okay, so this was a big factory, so you can imagine a lot of things were happening there. And it is a very specialized paper, so you have to imagine there's a lot of steps. They were doing a lot of things, fancy paper, all colored paper, all thickness of fine paper, including the paper you might just wrap things around. So they had a lot going on. Some of the tasks you would have seen were, it wasn't on the canal, so it was not using power for the canal, so it was using electricity. But they were on the railroad system and had a platform off the mill that went right up to the spike of the railroad. So they were very heavy into got lots of things coming in and going out. Okay, and the different jobs they were doing on the top floor, they were making some of the glazed paper and some of the colored paper. And then on the bottom floor, they were doing different tasks like administration, getting the items boxed up and put into storage. It was a kind of company that a lot came in, and went out very, very quickly. Now, after one of the sides, they did have a coating machinery, so that was one of their specialized jobs. Remember I said that they had fine things to almost velvety feel. That was achieved by coating. And they had different colors. That was achieved by putting different dyes. And they had to have a drying room, but that was smaller. So it was mostly a company with a lot of in and out.
And what was the history of the property, of this company?
Okay, the history of the company itself, it was incorporated in Holyoke in March of 1921. They were first at on Race Street at 141 Race Street, where they're a very tiny company that fit into one of the very small buildings there on Race Street. And then they moved into this building on the corner of Appleton and Canal Street. Their official address is 28 Appleton Street. And you can still see that entrance. It's much smaller than the front entrance. And then they lasted into the 1980s, which is great. Now, probably what happened after that, you have to keep making a profit. Probably what happened after that was that computerized instruments were able to function a lot better to make these fine materials. There were still companies around Holyoke that were doing this kind of work. Hazen and the Holyoke Glaze Company were doing the same things. This company might have been doing finer material, like very fine wrapping things around new shirts and new pants. But that kind of business, I mean, it's very fragile because almost any company can do that. So I think what ended up happening is that there's no profit there.
So, thank you, Robert, for educating us on your tours. And we want to thank our listeners for tuning in.